This is Phantom FPV. No, wait, scratch that. This is Phantom FPV. Think of another FPV pilot out there today with a style exactly like Phantom FPV's. He's got ridiculous speed, crazy technical tricks in the middle of these blazing fast lines without ever missing a beat. Just never stops from the beginning of the pack to the end. A density of tricks that just makes your eyes water, and a tenacity to continue hitting incredibly difficult tricks again and again and again until he finally gets it, and then just take it the next level and one-up himself. Phantom FPV is the topic of today's FPV Pilot Showcase. We're going to talk to Phantom. We're going to talk about his philosophy, how he practices, how he flies, how he thinks about his flying, his gear, his setup, his PIDs. We're going to do it all. How would you describe your style of FPV?
Oh man, I figured this question was coming, and I don't think I've ever answered it. But when I first got into FPV, I didn't really follow the YouTube game for the first couple of years, and then as like yourself, Mr. Steele, Stingy, all the big names started to rise up in the YouTube community, and then everyone started joining YouTube and posting their video footage. It was always I just felt a desire to see more from a technical perspective of like doing tricks in tight spots, stuff that you don't typically see in FPV. Because for one, it is a challenge to watch when you see your video footage is rolling across the screen at 1,000 seconds, you know. But I kind of wanted to focus more on that the technical side, really low, really close, really technical and tight proximity. And it's taken quite a few years, but I would say that's probably more my like root style. Is that really technical, fast approach to FPV.
You do run fast. You run a relatively high up tilt. What's your up tilt?
I do. It ranges, depends on how well the camera, like switching to the 03 now, I'm only able to get about 40 degrees up tilt maxed in the apex, but previously was as high as I could get it. So 40 plus degrees pitch in the
40 plus, yeah.
In the frame. Yep.
That's pretty high for freestyle. Yeah. It means you really can't slow down. You're constantly moving forward. And I think that really is one of the defining characteristics of your style is you're always moving forward and you're throwing in these really technical tricks without sort of losing your speed and your momentum.
I'll tell you that took many years to get to that level. A lot of broken parts, a lot of smashed batteries, a lot of smashed everything. I think I spent probably 2 years. There was a time, I don't want to digress off the rails here, but there was a period of time between about a year and a half where I was every day out of the garage around the house. My neighbors were going crazy, but it was probably 20, 30 packs a day for like a long time, trying to just get that dial to where I could have the speed and the technical ability all without just completely exploding. And it's still a work in progress. I mean, my videos, I crash all the time. So yeah, it's kind of a byproduct.
One of the things I think of when I watch your flying is it seems like you're always challenging yourself. I remember one time we were flying together and you were doing a power loop under a stairwell, and it was a really tight power loop. Yep. You were trying to make this crazy exit gap.
I guess I'm never content. If you look at FPV, there is a wide swath of the tricks that are available, the styles that are available, and the different pilots. So you really have a wide flavor of what you can get into. For me, it was I want to be able to do all of it, and then I would like to be able to do all of it really well, and then be able to do all of it in a really challenging environment. So I guess for me, it was like the trippy spin, for example. Like we could many pilots can go out and trippy spin a tree or a pole or a tower, but can they do that around a pole inside of a building with walls around you? So it's like when I see tricks that are being done outside in a wide or open or even in a closed proximity environment, I'm always like, man, is it possible? Can you do this trick in this environment? Let's give it a try. And sometimes I'll practice on a simulator if I know it's going to be catastrophic or potential for high failure, high equipment loss. I'll spend a couple hours in the simulator and then I'll transition to the actual real flight. The last point is I'm trying to be as good as I can be, trying to be the best pilot I can be. So
Yeah.
it's
I think it's clear that you're a pretty driven guy. Another trick that stands out to me is this chimney dive you've been trying to get, and I've seen you get it and walk away, but not get it clean, and it looks like you keep throwing yourself back at this tiny little chimney. Have you hit that one yet, to your satisfaction?
No. I had one a couple of months ago that was pretty clean, but I still tapped. And then I actually was out there about a week ago, last 2 weekends ago, and I lost my DJI. I hit the top, the camera ejected, and there's these tall weeds. And I was out there with a metal detector trying to find it. And I was like, God. Am I ever going to get this stack dive clean? That is incredibly difficult because it's just a tight entrance, tight tube, and a tight exit. There's no room for error.
Another video of yours that I think really highlights sort of the way your mind works and the way you think about FPV is you did a Trictionary, and you broke out all these different tricks, all these different variants of the tricks in a very methodical way. You named them all. You even give separate names to the left and the right moves, like you would with skateboarding, you know? And it feels like you're always thinking about it in a sort of a very methodical way. You think you're more of a methodical thinker, more of a creative pilot, you know, just going with the flow?
Humbly, I would like to say yes, absolutely. But I think more along the lines of that was like, I would also like to see freestyle professionalized at a degree of like DRL. So where you have DRL is very organized. It's organized sports like SLS, skateboarding. There is an organized group of judges and a program and tricks that you can define and name. So I think it was partially that. I wanted to be able to define tricks. So if pilots are out practicing or doing them, a judge or judges, a panel, could look at the trick and evaluate and say, oh, he did it this way, he did it that way, and apply a score as necessary. But then it was also just for the community of like, what? We're not doing just flippy floppies anymore. It is a definable trick. There is a method to the madness, I would say. So it was kind of like dual purpose. One, define tricks, and two, maybe in the future there's a sanctioned competition league of freestylers.
You're not like thinking about it that way while you're flying. You're saying you just kind of wanted to put that stuff down.
Yeah.
I've thought about that a lot. We see, competition obviously is good. People enjoy competition, and we don't see a lot of freestyle competition. We sometimes see people do, like Bach Grinder has his showdowns where he shows the videos, but nothing really structured. And people say, well, you can't do that. It's all about creativity. But like dancing has competition, judging, standardized moves, right. BMX, skateboarding, all these other sports that are analogous to freestyle in so many ways, they pull it off. And I wonder why freestyle just hasn't got there.
Well, I think one of the struggles is like what we all talk about. It's hard to watch. One is the vehicles are small, and two, it's just the screen is so rapidly moving around that a lot of folks can't tolerate it. So I don't know how you crack the code of there's a group of people that are interested enough to, invest and actually sit back and figure it out. Like, how do we create an organization, not an organization, but create a program where we could actually pull this off where it's interesting and people want to watch and people are able to watch. So Yeah. But you're right. Like Moto X, like there are all competitions out there where creativity is critical.
And like on some level, I say freestyle pilots, they're sort of got this really, they don't want to like give up their spots. They kind of just want to show their stuff. A lot of times they're a little bit more individual than maybe racers who are a little more inherently communal. But like surfers are I think there's a lot of parallels between surfing and freestyle. They're very protective of their spots. Only so many people can fly a spot at a time. And yet, you have surf competitions and I don't know.
No, you're right.
I think it could be done.
Right. It could be.
Well, what freestyle pilots did you look up to while you were getting into flying, and who are your sort of freestyle pilots you're looking up to now?
So Always the big names, of course, right? Like Mr. Steele, Stingy, yourself, Component. But I would say even still the same guys, with the exception of Sharpoo. I did not know he existed until about a year or two ago. And I know people will be like, there's no way it's not possible. It is absolutely possible. And
it's just been that long since he was making content, though.
Yeah. Well, his style, like watching it about 2 years ago, he was doing the bando stuff and he was doing tight proximity and he was really pushing the envelope. But that was, 5 or 6 years ago. So I would say I was really intrigued by his style. There's some young guys. I watch their videos a lot. I'm terrible with names.
I'm too.
A couple of them out of Europe. There's a couple of guys, like Big Oily guy I know is a really big bando flyer. Pretty much, I watch so much YouTube. It's like I watch everyone, and I think I feed off of that because I see people in certain locations doing certain things. I'm like, I want to go out and try that.
I gotta go. Yeah. Now you love bando style flying. I think that's really you'd rather fly a bando than a big field with trees. But there's not a lot of bandos. I see you flying a lot of schools and stuff.
Schools, yeah. I'm not opposed to fields. I just don't prefer them because it's hard to find that the proximity to objects. But like parks, school parks, churches, just about anywhere I can find. Traveling would be nice if I could go travel and like link up with other pilots. I've been to Atlanta a few times, been up north a few times, out in California, but it is a challenge to find in North Carolina to find like a decent bando. They tear them down immediately.
Sure. Yeah, right.
We've got some Brandos around here that are pretty good, but again, those are hard to find unoccupied.
What's a Brando?
Just a brand new bando. So a new structure going up. So like houses or actual like commercial properties. Yeah. Construction zone.
Yes.
That is what I prefer.
Yeah.
But even those are hard to get in because there's always someone there and you don't want to damage anything. So you don't want to ruin the hobby for everybody because you
wouldn't trespass. You wouldn't want that. No.
Right.
Let's say what let's do. You sent me a flight. I asked you to send me a flight. Let's watch your flight together. I haven't actually watched it yet. I saved it.
Yeah. The other thing too is the standard D-warp. I want to give the perception of being low to the ground without like stretching the field of view out so far that I'm actually not low to the ground. It's just more information on the screen.
Yeah.
So I want to, again, maybe to a fault because sometimes it's like it's all in your face at one time, but
throwing tricks in the middle there. It's just, you never go very long without a trick, do you?
No, I don't.
Yeah. You're always throwing stuff in. See,
so
like that one. You could have just jumped over that, but you're going to throw a little roll in.
Yeah. It's just that challenge because, again, my mindset is when I watch a video, I see someone fly through a gap, and it's like, hey, you can do a trick through that gap. What kind of trick can you do through that gap? Like, can you do a Matty flip? All right, how do we make a Matty flip more technical? Do a Rubik's Matty flip.
Yes, exactly. I think you're always trying to dial it up a notch.
Yeah.
He's still up. Call. He's still up.
Yep.
It feels very Steel inspired. The way Steel also does that. He throws his little moves in.
Yep. He's a little bit better at it than I am.
He keeps his line really impressively.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, maybe we need to pay more attention to the what it looks like post-processed.
There you
just
go.
Like randomly flying.
Well, there's always a balance between like making something that looks good after and just doing what's fun for you.
Right. And when I go out and fly, I try not to get into that position of like, I have to get footage or I have to make this look a certain way. It's like, I bounced off this thing. With the slide.
Did you disarm there? Was that a disarm?
Yeah, it was a disarm arm takeoff.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like if you're watching somebody have a really good run on like Tony Hawk Pro Skater and they're just bouncing off of this and bouncing off of that. And they're always, kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Try and use the whole area too, because it gets boring if you see the same spot over and over and over and over and over again. In some areas it's tough to do that if it's a small location, but like this church is
interesting.
Quite a few acres in size, so trying to use all of it.
So speaking of bashing up your stuff, let's talk about your gear.
Okay.
Let's run down your gear for us.
So Apex frame, Been flying that quite a while. I have now a KISS V2 flight controller, the KISS Ultra FCFC V2 flight controller. There's a V1. The V2 is not released yet. Still using FETTEC ESC, so the 45 amp 4-in-1. The Zip Luminaire Zip Popo motors. I can't like, why Popo? I know, right?
You're the Popo. You're the one. That's the only reason Good Luminaire still makes Popo motors is that you buy it. Do you break a lot of motors?
So. Yeah, I have. So I had a question, actually. A guy named Dervy, he was like, how many motors do you go through a year? And I was probably like 50, 100. A lot. It's obscene.
It's a lot of motors.
But lately, I haven't broken too many motors. So I've been on a winning streak here. But 2407s, because they are more durable for me. And then the 2207 is preferred. It's lighter. I feel like it's a better performing motor. But they're more fragile on the Zips. Mm-hmm. I go through those things like candy versus the 24.
If anybody knows, right?
Right. I switched over to the DJI 03 Air unit, which I like, and I'm still using the V2 goggles because I haven't gotten the Goggle 2s shipped to me yet. And then the controllers, the good old FreeSky Tyrannus X Lite Pro, and then that Ghost Link for the actual control link.
So there's a couple interesting things in there. I think we just take them one by one. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that you run the Apex frame. It's a great frame, very durable, top-notch frame, right? So set that aside. You run KISS. You don't run Betaflight. Talk about that. What's going on there?
There, and I know this is largely debated, right? The feel of how it flies, and to me, there is a definitive feel of how the quad performs and flies. Betaflight 4.3, I think, was the first time I'd flown a Betaflight quad where I was like, wow. This actually has that buttery smooth feel, which actually the video that you played is Betaflight 4.3. And I like flying it. It feels really good. It's smooth. So KISS just has always had that really, it's easy to set up. It's easy to configure. It's easy to bolt onto your quad. So the installation setup is there. It's really simple. Hence KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And then the way it flies, it just feels really good. And I don't have to tune it. I don't have to spend a lot of time tuning it. I can go out and just kind of get some of the bobbles out and just start sending it. Yeah, I mean, it's that straightforward.
It's not like you don't know how to PID tune. It's not like you're afraid of the technology. I mean, you know your stuff, but it sounds like it just works for you. No durability issues with that FETTEC ESC. I know I've heard some questions about that. Let's say
I think I've cracked the code on it. I say this with caution because I was going through. Hold on. And consider these $100 bills, right?
1, 2. That
was 2. 3, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So you punch 7 of those. They sent you an 8th one for free, right?
Yeah,
you heard about that, right?
Yeah. Well, I could use a couple of free ones. So I think I've cracked the code on burning them up. I have not, knock on wood, lost a FETTEC ESC in easily 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
And I run 2 caps, spike absorber, and I run my power to the flight controller independent right off the battery lead. So VBAT to VBAT. So I don't run it out of the ESC. And I think what was happening is I was getting, without the spike absorbers or the multiple caps, just the system failure, things heat up, spikes. It was just burning there. It's a pretty small ESC with a lot of small components. So it's just not as robust as it could be.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone comes out with like a 65 amp. So FETTEC or KISS, if you guys are out there listening.
Crack it up a little bit, right?
Beefy ESC, please.
Yeah.
But I've actually had really good luck with the FETTEC ESC
lately.
So even though $700 just dropped on the ground.
whatever it is, if it's working for you, keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
We end up, people will probably argue in the comments like, oh, well, that can't matter. But at the end of the day, if you stop popping them, you stop popping them.
Well, I also don't beat it up. So when I crash, if I'm stuck, I stop. Like if I know I'm stuck, I know I'm stuck, and I'll go.
That's when you were blowing them up.
That's when I was blowing. If I'm like refusing to walk to go get my quad or fly back, and wrenching on, crash flip mode, don't do that. Just walk and go get it. Save yourself $100.
Yeah, right. I'll pay myself $100 to walk over there and get my quad. Okay, sounds like a deal.
It's a deal.
So then you used to run analog. And what VTX did you run when you ran analog?
I was on the TBS. So I had the TBS Unify running the 800 milliwatt version of that. It was the HV.
I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear that you switched to DJI because you're going fast, you're in proximity. They would think that you want that ultra low latency and that smoothness that a lot of people feel like you can't do this stuff on DJI. So, why'd you switch, and what was the effect of switching?
So, from the very first day I got into FPV, I wanted to be able to fly in HD. I was the guy out there buying all the antennas, the circular polarized when, Alex was making them and True RC was putting them out and they're $40, $50 a piece and smashing them up, and just video was terrible. And I was back with like 600 milliwatt maximum, but like emergent RC VTXs. But then when DJI released, actually it was either yours or Stingy's that I tried first, or maybe it was even Steele's. It was one of the three of you, but it was very latent. And then they had that firmware update where they bumped it to 50 megabit. And I tried it and it fixed the jittery, so the frame rate issue, and it felt faster. It took me about 2 weeks to adjust, but flying it consistently for about 2 or 3 weeks, I finally got over the felt latency, if you will. And I was almost 3 years ago. When did the Caddx Vista, when was that released?
Right.
Almost 3 years ago. So now it's just not an issue. I can fly as close as I want to fly to whatever it is that I want to fly around, as fast as I want to fly. And it just it's not an issue.
I wonder if you've flown analog since you've adjusted to DJI, and were you like, oh no, this is so much better?
So about 3 or 4 months ago, I was flying analog quite a lot for work. And to be completely 100% honest, the latency was not an issue. I wasn't like, holy cow, this is so much faster. I got to have analog again. It was the terrible video. So
you did you notice? You didn't notice a difference though.
Not in a way that was so significant that I was like, I'm going to shelve DJI or shelve digital and go back to analog, because again, the video clarity for me is like, it's paramount. Yeah. Like I love the HD. And then when the O3 came out, now I'm at 800 plus with the Goggle 2, 1080, 100 feet per second. Cause I tried the Fat Sharks too, and they were really good. The Avatar system, where I saw the 1080 for the first time, I really liked it. So I'll train my brain to work with a little latency, however many packs it takes.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I think
you're not the static.
I think you're not the only one who feels that way. Obviously, the DJI system is pretty successful, but for someone, I think a lot of people out there might say, "Well, that's fine if you're like intermediate, or if you're, but it's holding you back." But when you see people out there doing the things you do with it, I think it's hard to argue that it's holding you back. I don't know. Yeah.
I think the amount of packs I fly is holding me back. I need to fly more packs.
And that's true for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now you've gone to the O3 recently. How's that working out for you?
Really well. So I configured it just like I had my Vista configured, and performance is better. So range performance, penetration performance. I was dealing with some low light issues.
Yeah, I was going to say no complaints at all.
Yeah, I have a complaint. It's the ISO. The low light settings are pretty bad, but I just updated my goggles yesterday and did see that I think there is more range in there now. So I haven't tested it yet, but that was my biggest complaint. Yeah, was the inability to fly in low light situations as I could with the Vista, because Vista's performance in low light's great.
You're not just talking about like I want to fly it at twilight, but also like you're flying like into a bando and it gets dark inside the bando and you can't see where you're going.
That's right.
It's kind of a big deal.
It is, or even nighttime.
Yeah. So then you fly Ghost as your control link.
Sure.
And I would say probably, like Crossfire, very popular. Express ELRS, very popular, gotten more popular in the last couple of years. Tracer and Ghost, maybe not quite as popular. How'd you end up on Ghost?
Pure chance, I guess, maybe. I started on Crossfire. Big antennas, I was tearing them up, so it was cost. Then ELRS came out, and Tracer came out. I bought Tracer because it was 2.4. It was small. Everything was smaller, and I had a lot of really good luck with Tracer. I like it a lot. I still actually have it on one of my quads. And then ELRS came out, and I heard you guys. I watched a couple of your videos, and everybody else. I think Stingy, a few of the big names out there touting ELRS as the hotness. So I bought it, and for me, my patience level with dealing with the firmware updates and the programming and this and that and the other, I finally, and I had some fail safes with it. Was it my fault? I'll say it was. And when I have a failsafe, I'm just like an unexplained failsafe when everything I think is right.
Right.
When I haven't had failsafes with any of the other protocols, I just was like, all right, I'm going to put this on the side for a minute. And then that's when the Ghost system was released that boasted the higher hertz rates. So now I could have even faster, lower latency link with the same performance as Tracer. And I tried it and I haven't had any fail safes whatsoever, barring a broken antenna. And I just haven't felt a need to change back to anything else.
Yeah, that I do think that's one of the gotchas with Express ELRS is it does take a little more. It's easier to sort of put your foot in something like maybe you bought a receiver and it's like, oh, well, if you were keeping up with the Discord server, then somebody would have told you that receiver had a problem. But like, that's a lot to keep up with.
It's much better now. And I mean, now it's fully integrated. I know the Boxer radio you were showing yesterday is like, it's all the other day is fully integrated. Yeah. It's into everything. It's just, and it's a great system. It just now I've moved on.
Yeah. Hey, you stick with the work.
Yeah.
Now you sent me your PIDs, and we're gonna share. Sure. I'll put an album. I'm actually gonna upload this stuff to an imager album or something, so people can look at it. I asked you to send over your PIDs, and standard disclaimer applies unless you're flying the exact same quad he is. You may not be able to directly copy the PIDs, but I do think people are going to be very curious, like just to learn that stuff. If you're flying KISS,
there's some new firmware that most people probably won't be able to get right away, but Alex is pretty good about releasing it. But I will say if you use the default tune as a start, it's going to be really good. It's kind of like the Betaflight 4.3 stuff now, that some of those default tunes are as a baseline really good. And most don't even need to touch them. But for me, I get a little bit picky and I want to dial it up or dial it down and just trying to refine it even further.
Well, what's your process for PID tuning? Like, how do you approach that? You start with the KISS. Do you start with one of the KISS presets?
I'll start out with KISS preset because I know it's basically like it's a good baseline tune.
Which
he does
preset?
a pretty good job.
Crunked?
It's just the first one. I think. Well, it's not called crunked. It's I think it's just called the KISS preset. I'd have to look it up.
The golden preset.
I haven't selected. No, I don't even think they call it that anymore, and I haven't used it in so long because I just flash over my other presets. But
all right.
So I'll start there. I'll go fly. If I hear oscillations, then I'll start either raising D, or if it's not locked in or as tight, then I'll start raising P. But I'll just go out and fly it and feel it and see where it's bobbling or not bobbling, or if it's holding a line or not holding a line, and then I'll just slowly make adjustments from there. Yeah, and it's I do the painful, like I don't put like a big number in and change. I'll do like 1/100th of a point or 200th. So it just make incremental changes until it starts to get locked in.
Yeah, so mostly sort of by feel though. Just intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking at your beta. You also, go ahead.
I will say on Betaflight, because you have black box logging, which you can do on KISS too. You just add a logger, which I did. I figured that out.
Just that simple, right?
That's it. It actually is that simple. It just took me a little bit to figure it out. But on Betaflight, I do look at frame resonance, motor noise, gyro. Like I do look at the actual black box logs to drive my tuning and where I put filters and notch filters or how high or low I run the filtering.
Yeah.
So I will say there on Betaflight, I do actually take the time to look at the file, to view the black box, to get it dialed. Yeah. And I feel it in flight and listen to it.
Old school, I guess. You basically just up the master multiplier a little bit here on your Betaflight tune you sent me. Everything else looks pretty stock. Anything sort of like out of the ordinary or unexpected that you do in your PID tuning that people might not see coming?
No, I don't think so.
Let's see.
I think on the filtering side, there might be some stuff where I add notch filters, and some may frown against that due to like you're adding latency or something like that to the system. But I've not noticed any latency by adding a notch if I see a spike.
I see. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like that's here on this one, but you're saying sometimes you'll add a static notch.
Yeah.
If you got frame resonance. Gotcha.
Let's see. I started this project.
What do you got going on here? Was it a boat?
I thought it was ironic. Yeah, I thought this was given to me as a gift. Broke the prop on it. But now I'm going to turn it into a long-range, high-speed boat, FPV boat, which I thought was funny because I saw Bot Grinder the other day. He just did a video on a boat, too. I was like, now it's going to look like I'm stealing his idea. But I was like, I'm like heavily involved in this. Brushless upgrades, all the things. Like
Nice.
It's
nice.
Yeah. That and I'm getting into the 7-inch game.
7-inch game? Yeah, you fly mostly 5-inch freestyle. What else do you fly?
I had a Beast class for a while. I started with a 10-inch, which I enjoyed, and I had a Beast class for a while. It just became too expensive. The risk.
So started out too expensive and stayed that way.
That's right. So now I want to get back into some medium range, I'll say, because it's not long range. So I just ordered the new Apex long range frame that they have, the 7-inch. Hopefully have that the next week. I've got the older Apex 7-inch right now. So I want to start doing some medium range flying, get back into Crossfire and seeing how far I can push the 03 Link.
Yeah, nice.
Hopefully get a few miles out of it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, talk to me. Of course, we got links to your social, your YouTube and so forth, all down in the video description. And if anybody out there isn't familiar, we'll put some highlights down there that people can focus on and really get a sense of what you're doing. But it's been really good talking to you, Phantom.
Yeah, really humble you reached out. Thank you, Bardwell. Appreciate it, man. My pleasure.